Cost of Victory, Book 1 of the Unseen Scar series by C.R. Saxon. Chapter 27. Planned events continued for days before wrapping up, but that didn't mean Ferdinand could relax, unfortunately. Everything his general asked was his responsibility to fulfill. It was exhausting, even her visit to his lab. She asked about every little thing in it, and tried prying into his experiments and inventions. But how did he make this worth her while? It was nerve-wracking. She should be with Zephyr. I'm just wasting her time. The only break was picnicking with the Artemis brothers. Excessive time with these three wasn't any better, but the general wanted it, so he escorted her to the meetup spot. Oya lay in the clearing, completely absorbed in the yellow butterfly sitting on her nose. Things got noisy once the others joined. John served lunch, and the adults talked and laughed while the three watched, letting them enjoy their vacation. Midway through a particularly boisterous story, Oya's ears perked. She didn't respond when Ferdinand looked at her. Sharp green eyes focused on something through the trees beyond view. Oya stood. The perfect empty void of her touch seized his arm, dragging him behind her. No one noticed them leave. What's going on? Ferdinand asked when they broke into a full run. Someone's hurt. Alarms screamed. A beep blared out, warning of a significant change in the patient's status. Putting the screen down, Ferdinand watched. Crystal blue eyes stayed fixed on her. Not once did he look away. Not until her stats vanished and alarms cried out her passing. How long did he stand there, listening to that awful sound? Oya moved faster, so Ferdinand increased his speed. Why is she so calm? Neither stopped or slowed until they reached the building. That void disappeared. Bare feet dashed forward and jumped. Knees tucked high, Oya rotated so her back broke through the low window. Wait. A sleeping part of his brain kicked in and his body moved. Bony hands covered his face as he passed through the falling shards. It was hot. Fire licked the walls, but didn't faze Oya. She passed through the flaming doorway and headed toward the center of the building. Only once did she stop, pausing half a heartbeat. Debris fell and she pulled him out of the way. Then they pushed forward. Flames engulfed the center lab. The room was half buried. Inside, a child dug desperately. Elby? What are you doing in here? Elby turned a tear-streaked face to him, hands burnt and bloody from his efforts. Help! They're going to die because I'm useless. I can't even convince a healer to help me heal. Pressure built in his eyes, so he closed them. Bony hands covered his face, sealing away what was trying to come. His heart ached and his stomach corkscrewed. He was seconds from running. Then an odd, unsettling numbness set in. Time stopped. That numbness killed everything inside him. All that existed was his racing mind and his futile attempts to find an answer. A solution. Oya jumped in, pulling away rubble. Someone's buried under here. For a long breath, all Ferdinand could do was watch her dig. She didn't hesitate, didn't flinch. Nothing, not the flames or the broken building, bothered her. She just pulled away each piece of debris as she reached it. She's amazing. That thought loosened his frozen muscles, allowing him to run over and help. What kind of person runs into danger like this? Puts her life on the line. Doesn't think twice to save someone. Risks her life for someone she doesn't know. He'd underestimated her. She was always kind and warm and amazing. But this? I'd never deserve someone like her. I can never live up to her. I'll never be worthy of her friendship. I'll never be worthy of her. Please don't die. His voice cracked, forcing him to whisper, Please, please don't die. A gasp hit his ears. Ferdinand was on his knees, head pressed against the glass and twig arms wrapped tightly around himself. His body spasmed, jerking him further down, and tears rolled out of his eyes. Digging sharp fingers into his sides, he fought desperately to keep everything back, but it became one more thing he failed at. Stop it. Why am I so weak? This isn't helping anyone. Alone or not, this was unacceptable behavior. There was no excuse to be like this. What am I doing wrong? Murder. Ferdinand's heart rate tripled. No. The voice was gone. Go away. Refusing to believe his reprieve had ended, he rushed in deeper, signaling Elby to stay near the opening. Sending his pupil out would be murder. He'll never make it alone. Useless. Ferdinand wasn't sure he'd make it, but Oya can. Weak. Surely as he knew this building was a death trap, he knew she could save them. A delicate hand stopped him, placing the other on a large piece of debris. Oya closed her eyes for an eternity. Then wild green glowed and motioned them to dig again. One piece after another was cleared, until they reached the last obstacle. A large beam crushed the girl's legs. Oya glanced at Elby, then turned to the tinkerer. I'm lifting this. Take her and run. Run as fast as you can for 3 seconds, then turn left. That doesn't make sense. Have I ever made sense? She grinned, looking like she was enjoying this a bit too much. Laughter echoed around his skull. Pulling off his shirts, Ferdinand handed 2 to her and 1 to Elby. I'll get the beam. You pull her out. Drop as soon as I have her and take the girl, Oya instructed. I'll get Elby. Ferdinand nodded. Sense or no, they wasted enough time already. The beam glowed with heat, but adrenaline was a powerful force. His flesh sizzled. Yet, he didn't feel anything. The beam lifted. Oya threw his shirts around the half-crushed child, wrapping the tiny body tightly and quickly. When she lifted, how did I miss you? The orbs in her peripheral dashed forward and dimmed. I'm glad. If he did this part, we'd all die here. A wild grin and a nod signaled her friend to drop the beam. Ferdinand grabbed the girl and sprinted for the opening. Oya reached the boy with mismatched eyes. Smoke filled his lungs, choking out what he was desperate to say. It'll be okay. Don't worry. Placing a delicate hand on his head, she eased him to sleep, picked him up, and sprinted out. Soon she was running in step alongside Ferdinand. Trust me, dear friend. Oya grabbed his arm and led him toward a wall. Something crashed. Again she changed directions and kicked down a door. The room was as consumed by fire as the hallway. She pushed Ferdinand sideways, pointing to one window while she ran full speed toward another. Give me a head start! Ferdinand ran as fast as he could. Please be enough to delay her. The window loomed. The child's covered. It'll work. Ferdinand buried his face as best he could and turned his right shoulder to the pane. Leaping, he crashed through. Livid flames escorted them out, wrapping themselves around his unprotected back and shoulders. He didn't stop moving, not until they were safe. The first thing he did was check on the child. Yu, his first apprentice. He couldn't stop coughing. Every nerve screamed. But that didn't matter. He didn't matter. Bony fingers found her pulse. But it wasn't just Yu. You killed them. Frantically, he searched. Oya. She stood, holding Elby. We did it. Ferdinand smiled through violent coughs. Worry painted Oya's face as she moved beside him. He'd never seen that expression on her. No, don't worry about me. It's not your fault. I'm weak. Useless. Darkness encroached on the edge of his vision. L.B. Is he all right? Did he get burned? Is he safe? Everything blurred.